Do you have constitutional questions? Get constitutional answers. We'll be answering your constitutional questions live, so get ready to call in now. Are you a prosecutor, law enforcement officer, or local government employee? Want to make sure you are executing the laws in a constitutional manner? Are you a city council member, township board member, or state legislator? Want to ensure the laws you pass are constitutional? Perhaps you're a citizen who wants to know the proper limits on government and the protections for your God-given liberties. Regardless of your role, call me, Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry, with your constitutional questions during our live call-in show now at the phone number listed on the screen. And remember, together we can restore freedom.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone. Let's see here. All right, you guys will have to let me know if you can hear me okay. I know in recent weeks there's been a new technological challenge every time as a bump in the road to get us started today, but I will look and see if we are having confirmation that you guys can all hear me, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I see. All right. So far it looks like, okay, looks like you guys can hear me, so that's great. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. Welcome to the show. This is Restore Freedom Weekly. I am Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry, and if you are just happening upon this show now and you're new to the channel, welcome. There's a lot of other stuff already on the books, so to speak, that we've talked about in weeks and years past. Although I've been an attorney for over 20 years, well, I've at least been in the legal field for well over 20 years. The freedom fight, really taking on the government, has been about 10 years for me, and certainly in full on in the public limelight, if you will, has been for the last 5 years. So anyway, welcome to the show, and thank you to Lori and John Q Public for confirming that we're good on audio. And hello to Liberty Warrior, Jay Curvitt, Black Quiver, Blue Line Transparency. I think that's all the ones I've seen commenting so far. So anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the call in now screen. So go ahead, give us a call now at 616-303-0093, 616-303-0093. There you go. It's on the screen, regardless of how I just said it. So go ahead and give us a call if you have those legal or constitutional questions. And I'd love to be able to clear up some stuff for you guys. There's been a lot of different things happening at the federal level. There's, of course, always stuff happening at our local and state levels. And so it's, sorry, I'm trying to read the comments and finish up my sentence at the same time. Apparently, I'm no longer able to multitask. Me too, I'm here. Okay, we got the MVP in the house, Mr. Catherine Henry, as he calls himself. All right, and we have our first caller. So with that being said, good morning or good afternoon.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, and who am I speaking with today?
Jerry from PA.
Okay, and are you the one that's on the zoning board?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so do you have an update for us?
Yeah, the attorney that we have on the zoning board wrote his decision. It was terrible. not sticking to the law. I had a big argument with him about it. He didn't change anything because of what I said to him. Because we had a hearing on these zoning, and we had a public meeting before they made the changes on the zoning. There was no meeting minutes. So how can you have passed it without any clarification that you ever had a meeting? And he just overlooked that.
Oh boy. So there were no minutes being taken at the meeting, and you guys did not subsequently approve those minutes. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's definitely not okay. That's not standard practice in government. Certainly not for a public body holding a public hearing. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting for me to see the opinion of that, the written opinion that attorney put together, but it sounds terrible. It sounds like, he doesn't know the law from a hole in the wall, but quite honestly, that unfortunately doesn't surprise me. So, so where are things at right now? So you're on the zoning board, and so typically when you have boards or commissions like that, you take your vote, which is essentially deemed a recommendation, and then it goes in front of the city council or county commission or whatever it is, that higher body. Is that the stage that it's at for you guys?
Yeah, he when he wrote the decision, the person who's going for the variance, which was not a very good variance, because they didn't have the appropriate laws in there for the Fair Housing Act, because this was a group home for intellectually disabled people, making them conform to rules that a normal property owner would have to do. Fencing them in with a 6-foot high fence. Having special locks on the doors and, the gate, and it was just totally ridiculous. The people didn't like it. They didn't want the group home there, but I fought as hard as I could to keep it there. I'm the only one that voted for it because, under the Fair Housing Act, everybody has a right to, and especially under the, Fourth Amendment and amendments and, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They consider intellectually disabled people with autism dangerous people. And they didn't want them there.
Which is absolutely disgusting and ignorant that people would, again, it doesn't surprise me that the people screaming the loudest are going to be the ones making their decisions based on fear and not on facts. So, when you have someone, a particular person who is, they've been found guilty of violent acts in a court of law, and they've had due process and all that other stuff, that's a different scenario, right? So there's, for example, a reason why we have sex offender registries, because that person has gone through, the court process, they've had their due process, they've had different stages of a case, and it's not until the end, when they've been found guilty, that they're ordered to register as a sex offender, etc. And so, granted, bad things still, good people still get swept up into that, and, we know the system's not perfect, but there's at least a procedure there. In this situation, though, none of these individuals are, because we're talking about just not current people. We're talking about all future disabled people that would otherwise be able to live in this home. The individuals aren't even identified, let alone any potential crimes that they have committed. So we're talking about people who are not criminals, who have committed no crimes, whose only crime is literally to have a disability. And that is just the most absurd thing for people in a community to just be afraid of people because they have a disability. That's like saying, I don't want a person with a wheelchair to be able to move into my neighborhood because they have a disability, and I don't want my wheelchair or my sidewalks to have to be, 4 feet wide to properly accommodate, wheelchair usage. I don't want to have to shovel that much on my sidewalks or whatever nonsense, right? It's like, this isn't about you and your fears and your, irrational requests. This is about the fact that everybody has a right to own property, to use their property in any way that is not harming the property rights of others. And having an irrational fear does not equate to having your property harmed by somebody else. So this is ridiculous. But so you're at the point where your city council, they're still to vote on it yet?
No, it's done and over with. It's up to the people who put in the variance whether they're going to go to common pleas court. But another reason why I called is people going to council meetings, speaking, public comments. Police are there. Gives you that chilling effect. You've seen it. It's going on like, in Okeechobee and Clearwater. I know the guys down there. You go to the meetings like James Madison and John Felix and that. Okay, so it happens up here as well. And yes, a year ago, I spoke up at a public meeting, and which I always put my camera on so that I had the evidence. And of course, I did get charges filed against me for disorderly conduct and everything, and had to go to a judge. I had a good attorney from Pittsburgh. Took a little plea deal, which wasn't bad. I didn't mind it. But what do we do in this case where it's a continuous, having our rights violated when we speak and, bang that gavel, or I'm giving you a warning, or get out of here, and here comes the cops, and they're going to escort you out. What can we do?
Well, one of the long-term better solutions is to have people that run against these local officials. So if you're talking a city council, have people that run for those city council positions to take over the majority. And I say that not as someone who's just like, oh, that sounds like a pie in the sky idea, let's just do that. We've actually done that before. And I say when I lived in Belding, Michigan, and we did not like what the new city manager was doing, and she was violating rights of people left and right, and the city council was just, I don't know, they were like her lapdogs. They were just doing whatever she wanted them to do. And multiple people kept going to these city council meetings, every single meeting, which was, I think it was twice a month back then. And we would go and we would talk about all these things that she was doing. It was a new set of things each week. It wasn't even the same stuff each week. It was a new crime that was being committed, a new right that was being violated every single week. And she didn't like that. And, so we got to a point where I ended up filing a lawsuit because she came after me personally for my speaking at those public meetings. But as a community, we came together and we did a recall effort on 2 of the city council members. And then when that special election came up, we were able to take back that seat and we got the majority. And we were able to have her removed from her position and start seeing some changes and some reparations made for the people whose rights were violated. So, you know, especially when you're talking about a local seat, that's really what you want to try to do is find someone willing to run who, you know, on paper it's going to be easier on you if it's someone who on paper is a good candidate. But quite frankly, as long as they're legally eligible to run, it doesn't matter. They just need to be somebody who has the passion for their community to make it a better place, and somebody who's willing to speak in public and hold their ground. And that kind of personality is going to be a magnet for other people who want to see change. So you start highlighting some of the main points of things that have happened. You know, pick 10 things, you know, that your local body, you know, minimum 3, maximum 10. Let me clarify. Between 3 and 10 things that your local government body is doing that is causing problems, that is trampling people's rights, and find ways to document it. So whether it's videos to public meetings, whether it's in meeting minutes, or official publications that the municipality is putting out themselves, have some way to back that up. And whatever evidence you utilize, make sure it's on a, you know, it's like on your own website or your own whatever, right? Your own online presence that you can control. So you're not just having a link that goes to something that's on, say, the city's website, and then they could just take it down later and then it's no longer linking there. You know what I mean? So have something that you can document, but show people in your community, because oftentimes you have people that, you know, maybe you have very active people in your community, but they're active on a state level, or they're more concerned about national issues. You know, it's really hard to make sure you have a community that is always in the know about what's going on in their own community. Even for me, I'm someone who is very active in our freedoms and in holding government accountable. And, you know, I've done in the last, you know, since I've been in Florida, I've done a lot of videos about things that Biden was doing illegally and unconstitutionally, that Congress was doing, that our Supreme Court has been doing. I've been talking about the charges that came against Trump. I've talked about some of the executive orders and things that Trump is doing and that Elon Musk is doing, and different things like that. So, you know, a lot going on at the federal level. I have spent a lot of time up in Tallahassee trying to fight on a state level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't necessarily, you know, even someone like me, I don't necessarily know of all the things happening at my, you know, the county level and the city level. And I like to be informed, but it's impossible to keep up with everything all the time, right? So if you have something that keeps it, so when I ran for trustee, I was asked to run on a slate. We were trying to get rid of the bad and bring in new people. And I was like, yay, running for something else. That's exactly what I need to do right now. So it was in 2020, and I had my hands full with fighting the governor and the attorney general and everything else. But I was like, all right, throw my name on the slate. Anyway, the person Michael Bosch is his name. And he was already a trustee at the time. But anyway, he was like the leader of this slate of candidates. He put together this, you know, like basically a flyer, right? And he did it as a mailer, I think. He handed it out when he did door knocking. He had it on Facebook and maybe a website. You know, he put it out there. But it was very succinct. It had the main bullet points of the things that the board had been doing wrong, and he had citations to that. So whether it was meeting packets that were put out by the township, or whether it was meeting minutes that had been approved, or video of, you know, because it was during COVID, everything was being done by Zoom, so there was video of the meetings, things like that. He had a way to document what the concerns were. So whether it's, stifling public comment, whether it's having purposely trying to have a chilling effect by having an increased presence of law enforcement personnel when they know that there's certain topics that are going to draw the opposition to speak on. Whatever the situation is, whether it's this particular vote and, the city has put their rubber stamp on what the zoning board did at the board below them, whatever it is, keep, put together your top 3 to 10 items and have that be, these are the things we need to change. This is what's wrong. Here is what's wrong. This is what needs to change, and this is what I would do to change it. That's what you put in the hands of a candidate or a slate of candidates to run, in your community and really change things. So that's going to be the best way, because I don't have faith in our judicial system. I really don't.
No.
And it's expensive, and it's an expensive time, money, effort, stress. But also, even if you win, sometimes you win just for that one case. And then what? So then maybe you got like $5,000 in attorney's fees, and, they had to redo a particular meeting. Ooh, that's scary,
Ooh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything, right? So if they're going to
Right.
continue to do that kind of thing, we need something that's a more long-term solution. So that's why I don't even say go with these short-term, supposedly Staples easy button kind of options of lawsuits or things like that. You can always take things to the press. You should try to really make some good connections with the press, whether it's, certainly mainstream media, wherever you can, but also, people that are, First Amendment auditors or things like that, where they have a social media presence, a strong social media presence. So those are the kinds of things that you could do. I guess those would be the 2 easiest things is keeping your ties to media strong and keeping them informed on the issues, as well as having good candidates run. So unfortunately, those are the answers that I see, the only answers that I see. But
Unfortunately, on the 20th, we will have the same old people running. Nobody wants to go on council in this community. It's just the same every year. They come up, they get reelected. It's just the same old people. I live in a very, very sleepy town where people do not stick up for their rights. And I do. So I knew that from seeing people, what they went through. And when I started speaking up and the mayor made a memo, bring the cops in public comment time, I knew they were out to get me. But I was already prepared for that.
right.
But and now, because of it, and I had good attorney, the cops aren't there anymore. They let me speak. I did win that battle. Now I'm working on disability rights under the ADA. That is a battle. That has been a big battle. They do not want to accommodate disabled people. So that's my new mission now, to do that. A disabled person can't even get in the door with a wheelchair,
Oh,
and they don't care. They don't care.
right.
So
Well,
the things that I know that under federal law and state law, because they get federal grants and state grants, I can maneuver that way to filing my complaints and stuff like that.
yeah,
So that's
exactly. Any tools that you have in your tool belt utilize them. So whether, you know, if you're experiencing issues like that and you need to make ADA complaints, or, you know, whatever those issues are, I mean, by all means, utilize those tools, especially with the administration we have now. You know, I don't know if you guys know about, you know, different things you can sign up for, different newsletters and stuff with the federal government. And for years, I've been signed up with the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights. And I get their emails when they're starting an investigation or when they've completed an investigation on different agencies or whatever. So for example, one of the recent ones, they sent an email about the fact that they were doing an investigation into Harvard for their illegal practices. And, you know, at that point I didn't share it or anything like that because it wasn't a finding. It was just, hey, we're getting ready to do this and here's why. So at any rate, it's they are doing a lot, and they're doing, of course, when it was the Biden administration it was constantly going after, you know, medical providers and things like that wouldn't perform abortions or whatever, that wouldn't do transgender care on minors or things like that. Now we're seeing, you know, it going in the right direction, and far more so than in Trump's first term. So anyway, there's a lot more traction that you can get, at least right now in these 4 years, making those federal complaints as well against those local government officials who are doing wrong. So definitely that's a way to go. But yeah, I'd like to know, you know, just keep us informed on different things. If that aggrieved party decides to take it to the local court and fight it, I'd love to know what the outcome is, you know, and hopefully they can figure out how to raise some of those issues, and hopefully it's not too late to raise some of those issues. They might want to reapply for the zoning ordinance or zoning variance. So, you know, and properly, because you said their request wasn't really well put together. So, you know, you might want to talk with them about, you know, have you talked to an attorney? You know, have you looked at redoing your application and putting it together with the correct laws that would really be applicable here, that the local board really needs to look at? That's also something that would be important, at least in that situation, to consider. So, and if so, let us know if they end up doing that.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for your call today. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
All right, guys. So, there we go. Nope. Other one. Nope. Other one. Sorry, guys. My contacts are a little blurry today, so I can't see what scenes I'm selecting here in OBS. But anyway, I was trying to also keep up on what the what the comments were saying here, see if there were any questions. I haven't seen any questions yet. A lot of good conversation, but let's see. You can give Lori all the crap you guys want. It's okay. No, I'm just kidding. Just remember, she has the power to turn you guys off. So I'm not the one that does that. I can't multitask to that level. So she's the woman behind. You've heard of Wizard of Oz, Man Behind the Curtain. She's the woman behind the curtain. There's a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them, 4 of them. I don't know. I think we have 4 or 5 people that have that power behind the scenes that jump on the lives every now and then. But Lori's the main one that utilizes that power. So just be kind to her. Anyway, so looks like we have, all right, so, question, when will we the people just simply rise up, arm up, and just simply do what we all know we just need to arm up? Like, I'm to the point here, let me first of all say, I'm not telling you to not exercise your Second Amendment protected liberties. Oh, absolutely, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying exercise that every day, all day long, and twice on Sunday. What I'm saying, though, is I don't think that's going to fix anything. I don't think any kind of revolt is going to fix anything, because we have a good constitution. We have a good framework for the basics of our government right now. What we need is people in... sorry, guys, I'm getting an error. Okay, I'm not sure. Hopefully you guys can still see me and hear me just fine. Let me know if you can, because I have a weird yellow error message coming from YouTube through OBS that I've never seen before. And I can't even read the whole thing because it cuts off. But there's a big error with a stop sign and an exclamation point in there. So, okay, I'm just going to pause a minute because I don't want to get on my train of thought here if you guys can't hear me. So, Wanda, you're commenting last. Let me know if you can hear me okay and see me okay. Black Quiver, John Q, Lori, anybody. Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody saying you could see and hear me. Somebody, anybody. I don't want to lose this train of thought, but I want to make sure you guys can still see me and hear me. Okay, everything is still flowing. Just the audio and video are off. That is very strange. Okay, well, I can't do anything about that, so hopefully that changes itself there. But at any rate, thanks, guys. Okay, now I see Jeff, Mike, others. So, okay, so what I think is really important is this isn't a time for a revolution. Okay, of course, I finally get going on my train of thought, but I'll come back to that, guys. Hello, this is... Or not. I will not take that phone call, I guess. So usually when that happens, they call back. And that is also, I can't remember who it is, but it is also somebody that has called in before. So anyway, while they're thinking about calling back, this is not a time to do a revolution, because it takes people who are just simply informed and have guts and are paying attention and who give a damn every day, all day long. You need a revolution when you don't have the proper framework and you need to start from scratch, right? Hello, this is Catherine. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I don't know why my phone does that, ma'am. Sorry.
That's okay. And I know you've called in before, but can you remind me, who are you and where are you calling from?
Well, I'm using the alias John Q Public, but okay. I'm sure anybody that looks up my situation in the news will know exactly who I am. So,
and you're from Michigan, right?
Yes, I'm in Michigan. Yep, born Michigan. But no, the reason why I asked that is because I have simply just gotten fed up with our legislators. Just give you an idea here. Just last Tuesday, I went up to our Michigan legislators. I got inspired by another YouTuber that I think we all know that broadcasts here from Michigan in Monroe County. I'm not going to give out the channel. I think we all know who that is. And I got inspired by going and see my lawmakers, every one of the lawmakers he mentioned, and there's only really about a dozen to 13 lawmakers in the state of Michigan here that are really hardcore for our Second Amendment rights. And I find it really surprising that we have a Republican House majority, and yet they can still not convince the Republicans in the Senate. And a lot of these Democrats, that a lot of these gun control laws we have on the books are inherently, at the very beginning, racist to begin with the Black Code laws and the Jim Crow laws of the past. And the majority of individuals that get hung up on firearms crimes are those of minorities, whether you're Hispanic, Black, whatever, including those that are Caucasian. And it's just, we just simply have ignored, and it doesn't seem like people have the willingness to physically, kinetically fight for their rights as we once did in this country. And that's why I mentioned the two dates that I did of the 19th of April, 1775, when we had the Battle of Lexington and Concord, and then what happened, the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, in August of 1946, which was similar to what just happened in an election in 2025, 2020, when it was a rigged election. So I guess my concern is, or my question is, what happened to the testicular fortitude of Americans, in which we have totally lost? It seems our court system is against us, our legislator is against us, and we have one man that we all think is trying to fight for us right now, but the courts and then the legislatures don't want to help him, and that's in the person of Donald Trump. And I'm not saying he's very stellar on Second Amendment, but I mean, he's a lot better on it than the previous president we had. And God forbid if Kamala Harris got in there, we probably wouldn't have any Second Amendment rights or even First Amendment rights anymore.
Yeah. So if that's your main point, I'm going to go ahead and just before we have any further issues, because I know we've had just such bad issues with the phone connection before, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect and then answer that, if that's all right with you.
Yes, ma'am. I guess I'm just at the point where I'm fed up and I don't know what's happened to America anymore. So I guess I just needed to vent too, in a way. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I'm gonna roll with it. And that's exactly what I was gonna try to address. I just didn't know it was you, the same person asking that question, that was also trying to call in. So it's great. I'll go ahead and we'll disconnect, but I'll go ahead and answer. I'll answer
Roger
that,
that, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, guys. So to get on to answering that. And let me just switch back here. Okay, so I don't get distracted and telling people to call in. So the reason why I don't think we need a revolt is the purpose of the revolt is if the framework of the system, the actual bones of the system are set up against you and you don't have those protections. We have protections. We have constitutional protections, and we even have statutory protections. Now, granted, there's a lot of laws on the books that are bad and violate our rights, but those are unconstitutional and void on their face. So my point is, there's no point in doing a revolt, because a revolt would just get us back to this point where you still have a bunch of people that are lackadaisical, they're lazy, they're aloof, they're clueless about what's going on. They're clueless about the effort that it takes, and they have every single excuse on the planet as to why they don't have the time, the effort, the energy, the money, or whatever to pay attention and do their damn job as a citizen. So, it's not just voting. It's being an informed voter. It's not just being an informed voter. It's, if there's no good choice on the ballot, it's putting your own name in the ring. If there's, if you've served at, say, on a city council, and now there's a big need at the county commission, then it is running for that office. And yes, Liberty Warrior is going to sit there and say when I'm saying this, but it takes a lot of money, and there's a lot of dark money, and they just pour in money in these races, and it could cost an arm and a leg, and it does way more in Florida than it did in Michigan. When I ran for township trustee of a community of roughly 50,000 people in Michigan in 2020, I spent $0. Let me repeat, I spent $0. I did not put a campaign website together. I did not put on public events. I did not send out a mailer. I did almost nothing. I did speak to people at a couple of events, but I didn't host any events. And I spoke at a little ice cream parlor in a parking lot for like 45 minutes, 2 different occasions during the whole time. And I could be corrected if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that I smashed the whole election. Like I creamed everybody and I got the highest number of votes. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So my point is, it can be done, and like Lori said on that, it cares who's out in the community. So for example, there's someone that I voted for sheriff in the last election down here in Volusia County. His name is James Powers. Now, he's actually already really well known. He's been from here his whole life. He owns businesses here. He's owned businesses here for decades, I believe. Perfect on paper, and he knows that. But he was the only one that was running against our current sheriff, who laughs in the face of the Constitution. So, and definitely holds double standards when his sheriff's deputies are violating the law. It's okay. We don't perp walk them. We don't talk about it. We sweep it under the rug. Oh, but when you have an 11-year-old who does something, supposedly, allegedly does something that violates the law, we're going to go ahead and perp walk them and make it the most public thing. And then we're going to talk about how terrible of parents you all are that these things are happening, because let's not assume and presume innocent until proven guilty in a court of law here. Oh, no, no, no. In Chitwood's Volusia County, all rights are thrown out the window, right? So anyway, I could go on and on about the wrongdoings of our current sheriff. So we had this one person who stood up and decided to fight back. And he didn't have, it was like, I don't even know, a 10-to-1. He was outspent. He was outraised, right? At least 10-to-1. It might have been 20-to-1 in the end. But he put up a good fight, and he got out there and he spoke at different events. And the thing is, it wasn't enough. He'd have to do more. But guess what? Is he backing down? No, he's continuing to speak at things. He's continuing to have an online presence. He's continuing to make sure people are aware of events. And that's what it takes. It takes, for example, my friend, a very good friend of mine, Joe Moss, in 2020, when we met, he was very much behind the scenes. And I'll never forget the day he said to me, I have this idea. I think I want to call it Ottawa Impact. And it's going to be this thing where we raise money for local candidates and we vet them. And it's going to be for school board races and city council and county commission and township boards and all that in Ottawa County. And it's going to be people who are just regular, moms and dads, local business owners, whatever, who are sick and tired of government doing us wrong and violating our rights. And so he had this plan, but it was a long-term plan. And 2022, they not only got one person in, they not only got two people in, I think is it 11? It's either a 9 or 11 person board. I want to say it's an 11 person board. They took the majority and they held it strong for 2 years. 2 years. And he became the chair of the board of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. And he's still on the board. They unfortunately lost, I want to say, 2 seats. It was just enough to switch the balance of power, and tons of mainstream media coverage of things that were nothing but lies, and just a lot of bad stuff going on. But they're still fighting the good fight. They haven't given up. My point being, and they had a strategy though for fundraising. And so that's what you need to have. You need to have a group of people. Unless you're independently wealthy, you need to be able to band together with a group of people. You need at least the candidate, right? If you're talking about one particular race, like let's say the sheriff's race, for example, or let's say you have, a bunch of good people on a county commission, but you just need the chair to, they look to the chair, they're a little too afraid of the chair, or whatever the case is, or otherwise really good. You just need to replace that one. So anyway, let's just say it's one race you're focused on. You need the candidate. You need a person who's knowledgeable in the Constitution, who understands how to look up the laws and what a fair amount of relevant laws are. But you need someone who knows that Constitution backwards and forwards and understands that above all else, when you work in the government, you work for the people. And it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not for the government employees, not for the government officials, not for qualified immunity, not for any of those other things, not for government handouts and entitlements and all the rest of it. It is for the people and to protect their God-given liberties. That's what you need. You need somebody who knows that inside and out and who is passionate about it and who is not afraid to step up and speak in public, at public meetings, at Chamber of Commerce meetings, at a candidate get-togethers, at the local farmers market, at wherever, and just getting out there and meeting people. When I ran for state rep 10 years ago, that's what I did. There were 5 chambers of commerce in my district, in my house district that I was running. And I joined every single one. I wasn't just a member on paper. I went to every single business after hours. I went to the lunchtime things. I went to the ribbon cuttings. I went to things during the day. I went to things in the evening. I went to, there were a lot of different communities. I don't remember right now. I want to say it was 3 cities, but a bunch of different townships. And, there was always a downtown development authority meeting, a planning commission meeting, a zoning board of appeals meeting, a city council meeting, a county commission meeting. There was always something going on. And I was at virtually every single one of those meetings all through 2015, 2016. I was there. I was talking with people. I was the first one there if I could be. I was the last one to leave unless I had to race off to the next meeting. But I was at these meetings and I was letting people know when I would be back. I was looking ahead at, I see your next meeting is on this date and I can't make it to this one, but I'm going to be at the next meeting and I'm going to follow up with any questions, comments, or concerns that I have brought to the table. I'm going to follow up when I come back. The whole point is you need to have someone who's willing to donate that time to doing that. But you also need to have people that are willing to step up behind them and fundraise. You have to have other people that are willing to back them by hosting, events. You need to have people that are willing to make phone calls and help them design flyers or, keep their social media presence. You need to have somebody. I couldn't have made it through 2020 and all the fighting that I did if it weren't for people like Frank Plotzik. He was there. He drove me around to hundreds of events in 2020 and 2021. And he had a camera, his phone, or my phone, and he live streamed the hundreds of events that I was speaking. And I was running for something, but most of the time, I had forgotten because I was fighting the governor. I was fighting the attorney general. I was fighting the Republican-led legislature at the time in Michigan because they were all doing us wrong. So anyway, since that was my focus, having someone like Frank or Ashley, by the way, the two of them are now engaged to be married. I get all the credit for that because if it weren't for me, they wouldn't have met in my house. But anyway, they were there at the events and, live streaming or recording. And, so I didn't have to. So it's the kind of thing, though, if I was running for office and these are the events that I would be speaking at, that you'd want somebody to do. You want somebody to see that you're speaking at these events. You want somebody to know that you're having a meet and greet event. So you need people that are willing to volunteer in any way, shape, or form. And I'm going to put a challenge out here that's probably going to tick a lot of you off. But I'm going to challenge you guys, all 25 of you that are currently watching, when I used to get thousands watching live. But anyway, I'm going to challenge each and every one of you that are watching now and all of you who are watching later and those of you who are going to download it on your podcasting platforms. I want you to think about what have you done for your local races, whether it's county or city, your municipality, your township, whatever, your village, wherever you live. And don't laugh for those of you like in Florida who hear me say something like village. No, in Michigan, there actually are villages. That's the municipal government body there. But anyway, I want you to think about what have you done to support local candidates. If you don't like if you're lucky and you have an entirely good board or at least the majority of a good board and they do good things and they pass good resolutions and good ordinances and things like that, and they repeal the bad ones and, whatever, great. You don't have to worry about it. But I'm guessing 99% of you do not live in a community like that because even if they're not passing new bad legislation, there's a whole lot of bad stuff already on the books that they need to be repealing. They need to be taking it away. So what are you doing to support the good candidates? Not only to get into office, what are you doing to support them while they're there so that they're not worn out, they're not burnt out, that they know that they are still making a difference? I often don't feel like I'm making a difference. And I'm going to be cutting back more and more and more. I have videos that I've been trying to get posted for, 2 or 3 weeks now. And they're not that long, but it takes me forever because I'm not a video person, right? I'm not a computer tech person. It's something that takes me a very long time to do all that behind the scenes work. And then it's like, oh, total between all the platforms, I got, 3,000 views on my last video. Okay, great. But is it really impactful? Am I really helping people with this? So make sure, my challenge to all of you is to make sure that you are supporting people in your local, your local boards, county, city, whatever, that you are supporting them wherever you can, donating if you can, $5, 20, 100, 500, whatever. I don't know what your campaign maxes are in your communities or in your states. Doing what you can to, don't just say, what can I do to help you? Say to them, hey, listen, I have this idea. I'd like to host an event and I'm going to have 50 people there that I have asked to come and listen to what you have to say on the issues that are important in our community. Do your part to support those local people. That's the biggest thing that we need to do, because, so getting back to answering the question that you might think would be just a simple thing to answer, but I don't think we need a revolution right now. I think we need a revival. I mean, certainly we need Jesus, right? But we also need a revival, or perhaps an awakening. Too many people were awakened in 2020 only to fall back asleep. All their lives became more comfortable again. They got their jobs back, or they made it through that round of firings, or they just decided to go ahead and get the jab or wear the mask or do whatever, right? To stand 6 feet apart. Whatever it is. Too many people are complacent again. And I don't think it's going to take being armed and using violence. I think it takes people showing up to the board meetings, showing up to your city council meetings, your county commission meetings, or the terms are flip-flopped here in Central Florida. But anyway, it takes going to those meetings. It takes reading the meeting minutes. When I was speaking, I talked to you guys at the beginning when I had the first caller. When I was speaking at the city council meetings in the city of Belding, I didn't go to those meetings to speak on them unless I read the packets. And sometimes they're over 100 pages long. But I was reading the packets. Now, I didn't memorize all the budget numbers and things like that. But I read through and I made sure to read every single word of all the parts that were anywhere relevant to what I was speaking on. I wanted to go and go there informed, and then I would look up the laws that would be relevant, and I wanted to make sure I had my facts. I talked to anybody that, was impacted by whatever decision that was being made that I was speaking on, that kind of thing. So, sorry, my dog's making weird noises in his sleep. So I think I'm reading some comments at the same time while trying to round out this train of thought. We need people that are awake, and constantly doing something, and not just jabbering. And we can't just be keyboard warriors, but we do need those keyboard warriors out there. We need people who are going to help with an online presence. We need people who, when you see your favorite, like Joe Moss, right? I'm gonna pick on him as the example. So he constantly has trolls on all of his social media. Whatever he posts, letters that he addresses to Grand Valley State University about how they need to follow Trump's executive orders. And it's a public university at that. They need to follow Trump's executive orders and get rid of their DEI programs. And he explains why, right? He talks about the inherent racism of those programs and how we shouldn't be looking at anybody based on their skin color. We shouldn't be utilizing anything with that, right? So he'll post a letter that he has sent to that public university, and then nothing but trolls and hate and vile, nasty stuff coming out. And then what it takes, though, is people that have his back to get back on that social media and factually address what's happening, to take down all those trolls with the truth, put them in their place, not with nastiness, not with personal attacks, but with sincerity and the law and the facts. That's what he needs. That's what every single person who's doing us right in government positions, that's what they need us doing. They need us having their backs when they're getting it right. So, at any rate, I don't think a revolt is going to do us one bit of good, because it's only the very first, let's say we have a complete revolt and we get rid of everybody that's in current government. Great. How long do you think it's going to take before the bad ones get right back in? I think it's going to be immediate. And I think people, whether it's the same people just getting back into those positions, or the same bad people just getting in, filtering into other positions, or it's a whole new set of people, but a whole new set of people that are power hungry. And they don't understand the Constitution, and they don't care about the rights of others. They don't care about our God-given liberties. They think the government gives us our rights. Any of that. It's only a matter of time, and I think it's going to be immediate. I think if we got rid of everyone in government within 1 year period of time, we would be right back to where we started. You could replace every single person in government today, and unless it was done methodically and through the system that we have, if we just took them out by violence, that doesn't mean you're going to automatically end up with good people in those positions. We need the vast majority of government positions eradicated. We need the vast majority of legislation on the books at all three levels of government erased, removed. We need a lot of things changed in the law. So you need people that are informed and passionate about our freedoms and willing to go the extra mile. Anyway, that is a very long answer to the question about, revolt and basically utilizing our Second Amendment rights to take back our government. But I just wanted to My dog Rex, I noticed a little bit ago, says that the Constitution fails to hold government employees accountable. I don't disagree entirely. I think there's a lot of truth to that statement, but I think there is some level of mechanism in there. It's just we don't have people with the guts that are already in those positions. So let's say, for example, utilizing impeachment. It's there. Could you imagine if they all had the balls to do what needed to be done? Yeah, I mean, the tool is there, but the House won't, they won't start the process, and the Senate won't finish the process. But there is a process there. I don't think it should be. I think maybe we need to utilize different tools. And if you guys are not familiar, if you haven't been following me since 2020, I would strongly recommend you go to my website, restorefreedomkh.com, and restorefreedomkh.com, and type in Restore Freedom Initiative, or RFI. Might work just to type in RFI. I don't know how good the search terms are on there, but you'll get to the point where you'll find the actual petition. So if you're unfamiliar with petitions in Michigan, if you see the part where it's like the signature lines and all that, you'll see a 100-word description. Don't just read the 100-word description. You would need to go to the backside, and I want to say it's 2 pages. You would need to read those 2 pages to see all the changes that we were actually making. And at least, that would have changed the Michigan state constitution, where there would have been teeth to holding government officials accountable. And there would have been real blockades put up to make sure they couldn't continue to violate our rights. It addressed things like standing. It addressed things like prohibiting you from holding any other public office if you've gone through that whole due process piece. You've had your due process and you've been found guilty of violating the Constitution, then you wouldn't be able to hold public office again. That you would be personally accountable. It was eliminating qualified immunity. It was eliminating all kinds of things. It was granting standing for any any single citizen to bring forth a claim that a government official has been violating the Constitution. Anyway, so there are ways to do it. Let's see. Okay, I'm just trying to see if there are questions. Oh, shoot, it just jumped a whole bunch. And there might have been questions. Sorry, guys. Man, it jumped. Holy cow. And you guys have had some really great discussions. Wow, it okay. I can't even get back to where we were. But yes, the comment was made about 2A EDU. He is awesome. He does an amazing job. It's been too long since I've seen him, but he is an example of staying active. Let's see. Just looking for questions. There was you guys have had a lot of conversation back and forth about this today. Okay, so Troy Scott asked, should police stop making traffic stops for low-level offenses, registration, expired registration, less than 10 miles over the speed limit, window tint, etc.? So that's a good point. Here's, I'd have to answer each one of those things separately. So if it is a malum prohibitum offense, meaning it is only illegal just because the government has said it's illegal, it's not bad for any other reason, then I don't think any government official should be initiating any traffic stop, any citation, any, whatever, right? I don't think anything should be initiated on those because I think they have a duty to uphold their oath to the Constitution and ignore those bad laws that are on the books. So when it comes to registration, should you have to register your vehicles? I'm trying to keep an open mind here. I don't see any legitimate reason why you would have to register your vehicles. Hello?
Catherine?
Yes, I knew you would be calling in when I was speaking about that. How can I help you today?
So I want to throw a couple of things in here. When people get to the point where they start talking revolt, and I'm a student of very, very deep history. I know what led up to the Magna Carta, what led up to the Grand Remonstrance, the English Bill of Rights. All these things were eventually revolts because the people had had enough. And when you look at what's going on right in our own backyard, we have the mayor of Edgewater that has now been pulled over on riding his motorcycle without a motorcycle license, without insurance, under 21, without wearing a helmet, all these things legally required. And even on body cam, the police are not afraid or ashamed to say, oh, we're giving you special treatment. Do you know what would have happened if you would have been pulled over in any other town? But you know what? I've even talked to our county chair, who is a very, very close friend of mine. But because Diesel Depew and Edgewater has done political favors, we can't get our county council or our county chair to speak out and say, hey, you know what? He's not above the law. That's when people get pushed to the point of there's no other way. There's nothing else that's going to work. This is out there. People can see this.
But I get what you're saying, but that misses what my point is, because let's say you get these people all out of office. If you don't have enough people that are going to actually be awake and stay awake and watch what's happening and make sure they are continuing to go to government meetings, that they are continuing to have their eyes on what the government is doing on a regular basis and not just in a bitching mode, but in an actual activism fashion, then it doesn't matter. We're going to be back at square one.
Right. And again, historically, if we look at this through a historic lens, that cycle usually takes 100 to 150 years before you're back to that point of absolute tyranny. You're going to get at least close to a century where things are going to be somewhat, not completely, but somewhat better. Same thing when you look at what's happened, in our country. Our Constitution literally survived about 9 years before it started getting trampled on by John Adams, but it really, after about 100 to 150 years, that's when we started just really seeing government go more and more and more and more rogue, up to the point where we're at now. And then you look at places like Okeechobee, you look at Deltona, right, where they're pushing the public out of the public's business. And it's one law firm that is running around Florida. And I'm telling you, these people are Satanists, 100%. They are trying to fundamentally change Florida. And they're the ones going around there writing these ordinances, cherry picking cases that, that they've got. In a lot of the cases, what they're putting in is part of the opinion of the minority on these cases, but they're selling it to these councils, these commissions, as though, oh yeah, we can get away with this. And of course, the greatest, and this is what I tell everybody that I work with, all of my clients, my candidate clients, people that I know in government, that when a government lawyer says, oh, we can litigate that, basically what that means is, yeah, it's not legal, it's not constitutional, it's not lawful, but, we can fight it in court. Because who goes into who goes into law working for a municipality? Lawyers that can't make it on, in the real world. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
But wait a second.
Look at the lawyers.
Wait a second. That's not necessarily true. First of all, most attorneys don't know what the hell they're doing. Okay. But don't just say an attorney who's going into municipal law is going into it because they don't know how to do anything else. I would gladly take a position as a municipal lawyer anywhere here, especially in my own municipality. I would love to have that position.
Nobody would have you. You know why? Because you have morals and ethics.
And that's why I would want that position.
You gotta check those at the door. You have to check those morals and ethics at the door. You want to work for Ormond Beach. You want to be counsel for the county. You want to be counsel for Deltona, any of these places. You got to check your brain and your morals and your ethics at the door. And you got to go in and you got to say, oh yeah, I can litigate that. And then when it actually comes down to litigating it, guess what? You're going to farm it out to another law firm because you can't handle litigating it. We see this happening constantly. And the public is getting pushed out of the public business.
Well, yes, that's
fortunate. I mean, we've now got a Hall of Fame football player in Warren Sapp that has now become an activist. Why? Because he got arrested for filming the police, for recording the police on his phone in Okeechobee. And the Okeechobee Council down there, they did not like the fact that a bunch of people came in and raised hell about the fact that, a Hall of Fame football player got arrested for doing nothing but, recording a traffic stop. What did they do? They brought in this group of attorneys. And I'll put it this way. Let's just say everybody in this law firm, you can take this for, make whatever you want out of it, but they're all confused, if you know what I mean. And they're going around, they're trying to rip the Constitution out from under us. They are completely ignoring Article 1, Sections 1, 4, and 5 of the Florida Constitution just to get started. And they just, Okeechobee brought them in. Why? Because they will check their ethics at the door, and they will write you an ordinance that looks really good on paper. They even had Warren Sapp's attorney at the last meeting standing up at the podium telling them none of this is going to survive in court. None of what you're doing is going to survive in court. And I think he's filed like $100 million lawsuit against Okeechobee. We don't have enough Warren Sapps that can afford to bring in these big law firms, these big lawyers that are willing to fight these cases, though. Try and find a civil rights lawyer in our county. Good luck. You're not going to find one. We just simply don't have them.
Well, Liberty Warrior, I tell you what, I've been telling you this for, years since I've been here. You find someone who wants to pay the thousands and thousands of dollars that it'll take for me to sit for character and fitness and then sit for the Florida bar, and I will gladly take on these people. But also, it's going to have to take somebody, I don't even have enough donations to keep doing the videos and all that, let alone to actually get back into doing cases. So that's the thing.
Well,
People...
and trust me, again, I know how much it costs. I have got clients that are in good people that in different races that I work for. I know how much it costs. And they're all being outspent. Now, they're not being outmaneuvered. We're going to definitely outmaneuver them, but they're all of them are going to be outspent probably a good 8, 9, 10 to 1. Look at Jake Johansson, who's on the county council right now. The guy's already brought in over 80 grand from one fundraiser. He's having another one. And then you look at the list of people that are all invited. These are all of the Volusia County power brokers. It's the same old people, and they're going in. They're all donating the $1,000 limit, and then they're just putting unlimited amounts of money into his PAC. And that's what we have to deal with. We have to deal with David Santiago is another great example. I have gone through his financials from the time that he was in the House of Representatives all the way through his run for tax collector and his run for county council. It's nothing but PAC money. And I literally have spent months trying to trace all the PACs back to their original source. And I can't do it. One person alone, I cannot do it. There are so many, and they run so deep. You've got one PAC paying another PAC, paying another PAC, paying another PAC, until it finally gets into to PACs that are directly acting on his behalf. That's what we deal with here. And, the sheriff's race was no different. If you actually go look at the financials and then look at the PACs that were behind him, it wasn't his money. It was the PAC money that was being used. And James is a good friend of mine. He's tracked a lot of that PAC money down. He knows exactly who was behind it.
Yep. He and I have had those conversations.
So, yeah, I've been having those conversations with him for, a couple of years now, it seems like. But that's what we're up against, man. We've got to be able to outmaneuver them, and we've got to get more informed voters. I've worked the polls before for candidates, and I've talked to people who literally show up to vote and don't know who is on the ballot. They have no clue who they're even going in to vote for.
Exactly.
And they're either going to vote for a party, they're going to vote for whatever party they are, or they're going to vote for a name that most closely aligns with them. Unless you get to them first and put some literature
No. You're putting way too much, giving them way too much credit. Not even a name that most closely aligns with them, a name that just sounds the most familiar. So, for example, for the sheriff's race, there's no way in hell that the majority of voters voted for Chitwood because his name most closely aligns with them. It's because his name is the one they've heard over and over and over and over again. And a lot of them just haven't heard enough of the James Powers name to vote for him. Even though he had the R behind his name and Chitwood was the independent, they voted for Chitwood because it was the name recognition alone. That was it.
Oh, well, no, not exactly, because
Dude, not buying it. Not buying the bullshit. I don't give a shit. Jeff, I don't care. I know exactly what they did. But you know damn well that most voters that win it on election day don't give a shit about what the REC did because they're not paying attention. They're not even looking at the stuff that the REC put out.
I watched them go to the tent of their party, get their guide, their voter guide, which James was not on the Republican voter guide, even though he's a member of the REC and was the only Republican. And those people in the REC tent are sitting there telling people who to vote for, and it wasn't James. So we have problems with that too.
Yep.
Why wasn't
But
James on the voter
I don't even
guide?
think most
He's
people
the
did
only
that, though.
Republican in that race.
I don't even think most people did that. Most people are not going to even care enough to be informed to go up to the tents. Those are the people that are like, the next quarter step up in trying to get informed. All of it is a problem. But I'm not convinced that the vast majority of the issue stems with that. I think it's that why I don't think a revolt would work, because the vast majority of people are too lazy and they don't care enough about getting informed and staying informed and watching what the government is doing and going and speaking at a meeting. And if they see something that is wrong, if they see laws that are being violated, don't hesitate to be the first one to stand up and say, this is not right, and here's why it's not right. And when you're speaking out, make sure you're speaking on the law and the facts, that it's not personal attacks, that it's not just calling people names, that it's not anything about their personal life. It is about sticking to the issue at hand and talking specifically about what the law says and what the law requires them to do in that situation. That's what people need to be doing.
Okeechobee just suspended all public comments until November. In Deltona, the public comments actually happen prior to the meeting starting and after the meeting is adjourned. If there's anybody left that didn't get to speak in the 30 minutes that they allot, if there's anybody left that didn't get to speak before the meeting was officially called to order, they get to speak then after the meeting is adjourned, which means that there is no obligation whatsoever for a single elected representative to even be sitting on the dais when people come to speak. And half the time, there's maybe one or two.
But here's the thing. I think that's all. It's all a problem. But in terms of using it as an excuse, that's nothing but a line of bullshit. Because there's always a way to have your voice heard. There's always a way to speak up and speak out, whether you send 57 emails, whether you start calling, whether you start your own YouTube channel, whatever it is. If there's an issue that's important enough, you find a way. When I did that in Belding, my law firm was focused on basic estate plans and landlord-tenant, divorces, mediations, bankruptcies. I had nothing to do with the kinds of legal issues that were brought before me. But I saw something, I had somebody from the Chamber of Commerce bring me a concern and say, hey, can you read this FOIA, these results, this packet of information? And I started looking through, and I was so astounded that I kept reading when every meeting packet was presented, and it was just mind-blowing what was happening. And it wasn't even something directly impacting me, but I knew what needed to be done. So I continued to read every meeting. I would read the meeting packets. I would read the law that was appropriate, and I would go and spend my time speaking at the meeting. And if they're not allowing somebody to speak at the meetings, then there needs to be something done about it. People can't just sit and bitch online about it. They need to do something about it.
Right. What they need to be able to hire lawyers. People can't afford to hire lawyers, and there are no lawyers to hire. Therein lies the problem.
Well, I don't think that's the only way to go either, Jeff. I don't think that's the only way to go. I think there's a way to make it happen where people can bring lawsuits on their own, because quite frankly, most attorneys are dumber than a box of rocks. They don't know the Constitution from a hole in the ground, and they're not going to be able to put together the proper complaints, even using proper formatting. They don't follow the rules. They don't follow the rules of procedure. I, for example, yes, I'm an attorney and I'm licensed in other jurisdictions. I'm not a Florida licensed attorney. And so I didn't, I grew up here as a child, but I didn't go to college here in Florida. I didn't go to law school here in Florida. I didn't study for the Florida bar. I had no pre-exposure to the Florida court rules, the Florida cases, the Florida statutes, anything like that. But I moved down here and purposely didn't get involved in government because I wanted to be able to handle the rest of what I was dealing with in Michigan at the time. And what did my municipality decide to do? They decided to pick a fight with me. And they decided that they were literally going to try to rip up my home, my homestead. And I was like, hell no, over my dead body are you going to tear up my home? Are you literally ever going to set a foot on my property? I don't even think so. So what did I have to do? I did what every other citizen who can read can do. And I looked up every single statute on the books. I started at the top and I worked my way all the way down, and I started printing off, oh, that looks like it might be relevant. That looks like it might be relevant. And I started printing thousands of pieces of paper so that I could go through and then I could highlight, oh, that is relevant. Oh, that is relevant. And then I did that with the court rules, and I did that with everything. And I have books, and I have it on PDF, and I do searching, and I don't have it all memorized. But I know that I know the law and I know the court rules better than most attorneys here in Florida, because they take it for granted that this is just how it happens. This is just the way it is. Even the attorneys in my own case, which you have seen some of the documents, they have no clue how to follow the court rules.
I've seen the attorneys in action. I know how stupid they are.
So what I'm saying is, people don't have to sit around and bitch about not being able to hire an attorney or not being able to find an attorney. If that's the situation and somebody knows that something's wrong, then they can file their... And they should, because they would probably do, if they're informed and they're hardworking, they're going to do a much better job than most attorneys are going to do. We need to stop relying on people to fix our own problems and stand up and do it ourselves. And I wasn't going to turn to another attorney to help me with this, even though they know the good old boy network better than I do, and they know what judges typically do, and this judge and that judge, and they know the process, the unwritten rules, so to speak. F that. I'm going to go with what the written rules are, because there's enough of them on the books as it is. I'm going to read them. I'm going to read every single one of them. I'm going to memorize everything I need to, and I'm going to follow them to the T. And when they say I don't follow them to a T, fine. I'm going to let it be known in the court record that I actually did follow it to a T, and you're screwing me over, and you're bending things just to violate my rights even more and to shut me up. I'm going to put that on the record. I'm going to find a way to put that on the record. And then I'm going to go ahead and follow your rules. I'm going to go ahead and play your little game, because I'm not going to just quit and walk away. Fine, you're going to change the rules mid-course? Okay, I'm going to make a record of how you're screwing me over on this, and I'm going to do it your way, and I'm still going to keep going until I win. And if I don't win at the Court of Appeals, but I believe I am going to win at the Court of Appeals, but if I don't win, I'm not going to give up there, because there's a Florida State Supreme Court, and there's a United States Supreme Court to go to after that. And I'm going to keep fighting and keep fighting and keep fighting until they leave my home the hell alone. And we need every single other person who's having their rights violated, and like I said, who has the ability to read and who has the internet at home. We need people like that willing to do their homework and shut the hell up and stop complaining if they're not going to be willing to take those government officials to task. Now, I would do more, but I can't do more all at the same time. You know, battling cancer, battling the city of Ormond Beach, that's about as much as I could do right now. But as soon as one of those two things is totally off, I'm going to be taking more. But that's my point, is we need to stop using these as excuses. We need to identify the problems, and then we need to find a way through them or around them, not use them as excuses.
And we have to find and get behind good, solid candidates.
And that's what I said too.
Willing to go and fight these battles on the dais as well.
Yep.
And that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
You know, I want to just give you a really quick example. If you never saw this in Okeechobee, one of the people that was speaking, I think it was the armed fisherman, brought up the case Cohen versus California, and the chair or mayor, whatever he is, this is how stupid the guy is. Literally said, that doesn't matter here. We have no jurisdiction over California. And their attorney just went with it. Nobody bothered to speak up and go, excuse me, sir. That's not how this works.
They don't know how the government works. So you have two problems. So reading the procedures that are right there for them to become familiar with, so that they can be knowledgeable on what's going on. Or they're the person that, the vast majority of people on a board, they don't read all the meeting packets that are given to them ahead of time. They just blindly vote with whomever or whatever their strategy is. They're like, oh, well, I know so-and-so, so I'm going to vote yes on this. Screw that. I don't care who you know. Or, I just generally go with whatever the planning commission says. Yeah, they had their whole meeting on it. That sounds fine. I'm just going to blindly go with that. I never did that when I was in government. What we need is people. So that's one thing. You have people that are just not informed enough. And then you have the other people that are informed. They know it's wrong. They know, for example, if somebody says, oh, we don't have to follow a case, Smith versus Colorado, United States Supreme Court case, because we don't have jurisdiction over Colorado. And, they know that that's stupid. They know that, well, a United States Supreme Court case goes, it's talking about everything in our country. Generally speaking, they don't make decisions that only impact one tiny area of our country, that kind of thing, or United States Code or whatever it is, right? So you have people that know, they have the knowledge, but they don't have the gumption. They don't have the guts to stand up and say, I'm going to call BS because that's not appropriate, or that's illegal, or that's not how a constitutional republic works. And even though when I won in my race in 2020 and I was part of a slate and we got our whole slate on there were still times that I had to be the only one voting, say no on a particular thing, yes or no, whichever, the case may be. I was the only vote sometimes on a situation where I'm looking at the people that were even on my own slate and I'm like, why are you voting for this? I just explained the 17 ways why it's illegal or it's unconstitutional or whatever. We're violating so-and-so's rights by doing this. Like, why? But I didn't care if I was the only no. I mean, I cared because the outcome needs to be the right outcome for the citizens of the community. But I didn't. Are they going to ostracize me? Are they going to say horrible things about me? Are they like, whatever, dude, if you're going to think poorly of me because I'm going to stand up and I'm going to tell you exactly how you're violating the law and how you're violating the Constitution and how you can't do this to people's rights. I don't care if I'm the only no vote. And I was doing that back from when I was on different boards in the city of Belding. I'm going to do what I think is right. And unfortunately, far too many people are either uninformed or if they're informed, they're just too chicken to do the right thing. And I don't know.
Well, and there's another problem here is they've also got staff, actually a really good firsthand example of this right here, on the Volusia County Council, where their attorneys are giving them bad information. There's just something that absolutely violates the Florida Constitution. I think it's Article 1, Section 21. It's either 19 or 21. But absolutely violates the Florida Constitution. And a couple of members of the council actually went and asked the attorney, hey, can we do this? Can we vote on this? Oh, yeah, it's fine. They all voted for it and created an ordinance that now abstitution, because nobody on that commission or that council decided to do even one iota of their own research. They depended on other people. And I've always said, I don't think the problem so much are necessarily the ones we elect. They're the ones we don't elect. They're the people sitting in the office.
Oh, no,
don't know their name.
They are the people. The problem is the people that we elect, because if they're not going to do their own damn homework, if they're not going to actually read the whole packet for themselves, if they're not going to actually read the statutes, if they're not going to read the Constitution, if nothing else, if they're not going to memorize the Constitution, specifically the part of the Constitution that controls local governments, for example, the Declaration of Rights and the part of our Constitution that talks about local governments and the powers to those local governments, if they don't have those two parts totally memorized, then they need to be off the board. They have no business being on there. So they are definitely the problem. Whether it's through ignorance or evil or laziness or just a lack of having a pair of balls, they would need to be removed from their position in government, because it's all the same result.
Article 1, Section 1 of the Florida Constitution is literally one sentence, and they can't even remember that. They can't even remember who they work for and what their place on the hierarchy, on where they sit on the totem pole. Because Article 1, Section 1 of the Florida Constitution clearly defines where they sit on the totem pole. And they can't remember that one sentence.
Right. Well, I appreciate you calling in, but I just saw what time it is and I need to start wrapping this up. We could complain about government all day long, but we'll have to finish that in the next show, which will be 2 weeks from today. I guess the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I'm not too excited about that. We'll see about that. But at this point, that's what it'll be.
I don't know if you saw it earlier, but I did want to just say that you are looking very well. I hope that is an indicator that you are feeling better.
Every day is a little bit different. It's yes and no. So I have new pains and aches and hurts and things with my scars and all kinds of stuff and exhaustion in ways that I didn't have in the first couple of months. But I'm here, I'm alive, I'm kicking. So there's always that. So.
All right. Well, hopefully we will see you guys soon.
Yeah, because I mean, what the heck? I need more cookies, man. All right. Tell your
right,
better
you
half I said hello.
I will. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. So with that being said, I was trying to listen to him at the end of that as well as scroll through. I haven't been seeing any other questions. Again, lots of great stuff going on in the chat, lots of different things, different experiences you guys are talking about, good points being talked about back and forth. But it does make it a little more chat that there is, the more challenging it is for me to necessarily see if there is, a question that I haven't been able to answer yet. So just scrolling, and it looks like there weren't actually a whole lot of questions. What I did want to do is finish answering the question that I was answering when that last caller called in. And there was a question about, registration. So I think it was something about, should our, patrol officers, should they be making stops or initiating stops that are just for things like registration, 10 miles over, window tint, that kind of thing? And I guess I'm torn about that. And here's where I'm torn about that. So oftentimes there are actual real criminals that make, that are actually violently hurting other people, that for one reason or another evade what should be coming to them in the justice system for one reason or another, okay? And oftentimes it is the utilization of these lesser things where they're like, okay, we're gonna pull them over because the vehicle has expired registration. But it just so happens to be this person is so-and-so, and they've been evading having this arrest warrant executed on them for attempted murder or whatever the case is. That's a big extreme. Here's the thing. I think that they could be utilized in that sense for a tool for purposes of initiating a lawful traffic stop, loosely speaking. Should they be actually just utilizing that day in and day out for the average citizen when it is not an exception? Should all speeders just be allowed to speed? No, if you're speeding 50 miles an hour through my neighborhood, I'm going to go out there and kick your ass if I can catch you. But certainly, should you have your ass arrested? Yes, because that's endangering the lives of the minor children that live in this neighborhood, because that's not an appropriate speed. If you're one of those dumbass bikers, not all bikers, but one of those dumbass bikers that you come down to Florida, you come down to Daytona during bike week just to be a jerk and drive like you own the entire road, and you're one of those people that's going to definitely cause accidents while you're down here, yeah, you need to have your ass pulled over and ticketed and probably arrested to save the lives of all the other drivers, including the other bikers on the road. So at any rate, in general, do I think that they should be pulling people over for the low-level offenses? That would be my only reason as to why, okay? And if it's just a registration thing, it turns out, that's not even, it's not somebody who has, some sort of warrant for their arrest for a violent offense. It's not somebody who's actually doing something that's violating the rights of others. It's just an expired registration and that's it. No, I don't think there should be tickets written for any of that. I don't think any officer should ever write a ticket for expired registration or lack of insurance or those kinds of things, because those are malum prohibitum offenses, not malum in se offenses. They're not bad because they're bad. They're bad just because the government has said they're bad. So I think that, in window tint, again, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm trying to think of the other side. Is there some actual legitimate reason why you wouldn't be able to have window tint? And off the top of my head, I can't think of a legitimate reason why you shouldn't be able to tint your windows, because it's Florida. The sun is very hot. It ruins car interiors. It ruins everything in your car. And so the most you could do to cover up your windows and do things like that, the better it's going to be for the people in the car, the stuff in the car itself, etc. So as far as cops just being able to see who's in a vehicle, here's the thing. What's the difference between, and I get there's officers need to be safe, but so do citizens, right? So, but let's say, if we're talking about officer safety when it comes to the window tint issue, and they don't want the windows too dark so that when they approach a vehicle, they can't see who's in the back or whatever. What's the difference between approaching in a vehicle, coming up to a vehicle that has dark window tint in the back windows, so much so that you can't really see all the occupants of the vehicle? What's the difference between that versus walking up to a box truck that you have pulled over? Or better yet, for those of you who know me, you might have seen I call it my white kidnapper van that we had. We had a, I think it was a Chevy 250 big van that we used for moving and different things. Instead of renting a U-Haul to finish moving our stuff down here, we bought this van, and we ended up being able to sell it for basically what we paid for it. So it was the best investment in the long run. Anyway, this ugly old white van, it didn't have windows. It had the 2 windows on the front doors. It had the windshield, but the back doors did not have windows. And I don't remember. I don't think the side doors that you use to access the back of the vehicle, I don't think that those had windows. But there certainly were no other windows anywhere in the back of the vehicle. So what's the difference between a cop pulling me over in my Toyota Highlander that might have dark window tint, which it doesn't, it just has standard factory window tint. But anyway, let's say it had super dark window tint. What's the difference between that and then them pulling me over in that kidnapper van, that white work van that doesn't have windows? It's the same kind of safety issue, isn't it? If there's a whole bunch of serial killers in the back of the van, all cocked and loaded and ready to blow away an officer, what is the difference between the 2 vehicles? It's just a regulation or something put forth based on fear, not on common sense and facts. So at any rate, that's my thoughts on that. So hopefully I was able to answer you. I don't remember exactly which person it was that was asking the question about that, but no, in general, I don't think there should be officers making stops for those. And it's not so much that it's a low-lying offense. If it's a malum prohibitum, if it's only bad simply because they've said it's bad, you didn't have insurance, you didn't have registration. If it's only bad just because the government has said it's bad, I don't think that's appropriate. Speed limits is a different thing, because in general, the point of speed limits is to keep the community safe given what's around. If it's a school zone, there's a reduced speed limit during the times that children are exiting and entering the school building. That's going to be a lower speed limit than the freeway or a highway, right? So let's use common sense here. So anyway, hopefully that answered your question, but no, they should not be writing for tickets for things that are unconstitutional on their face. So anyway, with that being said, I just wanted to, where do we go? Here's the links. The links, in case you need them for anything that can be useful for you. RestoreFreedomKH.com, that's the main website. So start there, and if you start there, you can't go wrong, right? That's the main basis for all the other information. But there is a support tab. With that support tab, you'll see a way to donate. You can see a way to just follow us on social media, hit the like button, share button, all that kind of stuff. To be able to purchase the Restore Freedom goodies that we have, the window clings, the car magnets, the pop sockets like this. Please, by all means, order any of those, and it's all at cost. I'm not making money on any of that. It's literally, I have a bunch of this stuff because I bought it when tons of people were ordering it, and then all of a sudden people went from ordering it. Every day we had orders and orders and orders, and now nobody's ordering it. Come on, guys, help me out. These are good things to get to share the message of restoring freedom. So I have no idea what the warning is now. Now it has a different warning, so maybe you guys can't even see me for all I know. Anyway, so check that out. Check out that donate option as well. Like I said, restorefreedomkh.com/donate. That'll take you right to the page of all the different options to donate. Any little bit helps. Any little bit helps so that I can continue doing what I've been doing. And I'd love to get back in and do even more like I was in 2020 and 2021. I'd like to gear back up, but I can't do that all on my own. It's too much for us financially, emotionally, intellectually, everything else for me to just do that all on my own. And restorefreedomkh.com/obcase. I had recently updated that maybe a month and a half or so ago. That has all kinds of information, different legal arguments, examples of what motions look like, or, motion for stay, for example. What stuff looks like that you would put together at a municipal level court, circuit court, a court of appeals. There's some video on there I need to upload. I need to find the rest of our video and audio on the different hearings and get those uploaded for you as well. But there's copies of like that look like. And just in general, the restorefreedomkh.com/resources. If you have your own case pending, or you have, you want to start speaking out at city council meetings more or something like that, check out that resources tab, see what kinds of things we have for you. Also go to the updates tab. So restorefreedomkh.com/updates, or just go to the updates tab on the main website. You'll be able to see all the different things that we've posted. There's a search tab or search bar, and you can type in different things to narrow down the search. But there's all kinds of different things. There's local government is one of the categories on there. You can click on local government. It'll show you all the posts where we have tagged local government, and you can see different ways to get involved, different ideas, different freedom fighting tools that we've shared throughout the years, etc. So all of that is on there. Okay, so okay, and yeah, so the Angry Vet is asking, what does the donations go towards? If you go to the website restorefreedomkh.com/donate, that's a good place to go, because different donations go to different places. So, for example, if you feel led to help with ongoing medical expenses and things I have because of the cancer diagnosis, or just to help us in our household expenses because our household has suffered financial losses just to do the freedom fight for the last 5 years, that is solely what I've been doing with my law firm, then that, when you donate in one of those ways, it goes towards that, the personal funds. If you donate one of the other options, like through PayPal, for example, and you want to donate towards the general freedom fighting work that I do, then it goes into the business account, and it helps to keep the lights on, so to speak. But it, helps to pay for all the legal research, if I need, I don't know, any of the number of legal books, I'm wrong direction, that are behind me, or, updates of the court rules or whatever it is. I mean, I have as bare bones of an operation as I could possibly have. But those are the kinds of things that it pays for. I don't even pay for streaming software anymore. That's why I don't multi-stream, because it's just an expense I couldn't justify anymore without enough donations coming in. So if I get enough donations, then, if I had a ton of people start donating, then I would love to go ahead and take the Florida bar and start fighting for freedom down here in ways that we've talked about on this very episode. So anyway, that's an answer to some of those questions, but each way kind of explains what those things are for. So, excuse me, guys. Apparently I'm all choked up, literally, about that. So with that being said, I appreciate all of you that were in the chat today, having a lot of vibrant discussion. And for those of you that called in, and for those of you that asked questions of me in the YouTube chat, it's been a great conversation. And I will look forward to having you guys join me 2 weeks from today. I don't think I'll change it. I'm just kind of like, oh man, to come in the Tuesday after Memorial Day, but Mike's got to work anyway that day, so why not? So anyway, I will see you 2 weeks from today at noon Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, and posted later on. on the other social media platforms and podcasting places as well. And so with that, thank you all, and I hope you all have a blessed day and continue in your own fight for freedom with the zealousness and the passion that I certainly have for this freedom fight and for our Constitution. So with that, have a wonderful day. Thanks, guys.
Our work to restore freedom would not be possible without support from people just like you. From the various software and hardware needed to the legal research materials, every dollar you can donate helps. Make sure to like and share this video too. And remember to follow and subscribe and click that notification button. Together, we can restore freedom.